So, what are the steps to establish the Shelterbelts in trees? There are several of them. Each of them are very important. And each of them I'm gonna go a little bit more in the details. Site selection. It's the first step that you have to look before you even considering the planting trees or shrubs on your property. You have to know what is the soil type, because not every tree and shrub is gonna grow on the all kind of soil conditions. So if you have a high salinity soil, there's only a few trees and shrubs that you can plant. If you have a heavy clay, there's trees that can like and can grow on the clay, and there's a tree that don't. If you have a sandy soil, you might plant a pine. So it's first thing you figure out what kind of soil do you have. Then even though you are a pretty flat area, still look for the exposure. Is it where is the lower or full sunlight exposure? Wind, you know better than I do what are the prevailing winds and how you're going to design your Shelterbelts and wind breaks. Again, it's wind are one of the key factors. Topographic features, if you have some of the creeks and creek hills and sloughs and depression ridges, each of them require certain consideration. Each of them respond differently how you're going to plant the trees. So if you have a, let's say, northern exposure, a little bit on the hill, spruce like the colder area. If you have a southern exposure, pine likes the colder area. If you have along the creeks, some of the definitely cottonwood's going to like it. If you have a top of the hill, you might have some of the pine. So topographic features again played also a role. Drainage, where the water flow, pay attention to that. If you have a spring runoff or very dry, it's gonna see how when you do the water, where the water is flowing is crucial. It's really important for the for many reasons. Come to the water, test the quality. You might have a lot of sodium in your water, which you don't want to water your trees with a high level of sodium. Water is precious in your area, and quality of the and quantity of the water, how much you're going to use. So you might consider that some of the tree species that might not require as much water as some of the species. As you probably know, the hybrid pole perennials require lots of water. Pine doesn't require lots of water. Last and not least, I always said over and over, visit already established Shelterbelts and properties. Talk to the local folks. Ask them what's the best way to establish the trees. Ask them where they made mistake. Learn from people, local people. They will give you lots of information. So stop by if you see it. Ask the people how they achieved when it comes to the trees and shrubs. Map. This could be very simple, especially today with technology. This is where you might include your kids and grandkids to draw the map. You might use the Google Earth and draw the several lines, measure the distance, make sure that where the buildings are, where the roads are, where the power lines, where the existing Shelterbelts. There's a certain rules how to keep away from the major highways, what the distances are, and where they're down the road you're planning to build some of the future buildings or storage or parking or whatever you have. So draw the just rough map. It will save you lots of headache. And like here is just example of Google Earth and some of the Shelterbelts in your county. Check for the physical structures. As you can probably see, lots of people plant the trees under the power line, and then they're topping over and over and over. Avoid those mistakes. You can plant some of the shrubs and low height trees that you can plant under the power line. If you can avoid it, that's the best. Look where the water and sewer lines are. You don't want to have some of the roots going into them. And of course, telephone and gas and propane lines, make sure that it's there. Sidewalks, people plant trees very close to the roads, and that's created lots of problems as well. So make sure those permanent features are addressed when you do the design. As I mentioned, there is some local regulations, how much is from the secondary roads and how, I think 300 feet from the major highway. So if you're along the highway 3, you have to plant the trees 300 feet away from the major highways. But also within your own yard, if you have buildings and structure, plant at least 100 feet away from that, because those trees can grow, they can fall down, they can damage some of the infrastructure. You don't want to plant the trees too close to your home because you're going to have a pile of the problems. Last and not least, last year they found a Dutch elm disease in the city of Lethbridge. If you do have some of the elm trees already on your property, please do not prune them from April 1st all the way till October 1st. Next, we're going to talk about tree and shrubs selection.